It's a pretty busy winter pattern coming up. I mean, definitely going to be seeing plenty of cold air for the next couple of weeks. There's periods of active weather, more widespread, and then there's periods of more relaxed, widespread weather, but still there'll be a couple clippers in spots. There'll be the opportunity for some lake effect, and there's enough energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere that'll come together at times to where maybe things that aren't shown on the models now, 5, 7, 10 plus days out, are going to reappear. The pattern's certainly not one of those like, oh, it's just high pressure, sunshine, and cold. So keep a close eye on things, but we do have a big winter storm for the south. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about the south, how will it impact your specific area. Of course, we'll get into. We're going to arm you with a little bit of information when it comes to total snowfall, who's kind of in that snow drought and could use some, and the setup for the next storm and what it could mean a pretty big difference between one type of situation versus the others. Oh boy, that's a loud one. We'll shut that off here. Wake up call. Sorry about that. So this is the snow on the ground. You can definitely see plenty of it, of course. Some spots picking up 10 inches or more from that last storm. Sunday into Monday, and that cold air holding that snowpack, but a pretty widespread area of at least a little bit of snow on the ground. Plenty of snow out west, but not much more in the way of incoming snow over the next few to several days. So nation's capital dealing with it. Some of the snow belt areas certainly have added it up as well. But when you look at snowfall compared to average, again, upper Midwest, northern plains, hardly anything. Even in spots in Michigan outside those snow belt areas, not a ton, but snow belts in through northeast Ohio, western Pennsylvania, totally different story. Southwest New York. The Watertown area got hit pretty nicely. So you can certainly see major differences, and then the area you got the storm, you're way above average in seasonal snowfall. But this one will get further south. You can see Dallas, Memphis, Nashville area, Charlotte, all going to be hit from this next storm, and it will come northeast, so how exactly is it going to play out? We'll take a look at that. Lake effect coming off of western Michigan, off of the lake there, sliding in towards Ohio potentially in spots. There's just some of that orographic lifting that you get in towards portions of southern Ohio, in towards portions of Virginia and Kentucky as well. Just that moisture that comes off the lakes can travel several hundred miles and then get lifted by that terrain. So that's what's going on currently. Not really a ton to write home about. Here's the beginnings of the next system starting to form into New Mexico and western Texas with that swirl of energy. We'll show you a little bit more on that here in just a little bit, but this is the overall setup. Let me go over to the green screen here, and we'll showcase that maybe a little bit better for you. I'll shut the webcam off. All right, that should probably be pretty good. All right, here we go. I'll let the camera refocus. High pressure or the camera will not refocus. There we go. All right, sorry about that. High pressure moving on out. And here comes the system, and it's going to be potent for sure. I mean, we're talking about a corridor of some major snowfall into northern Texas, Red River Valley, then icing on that south side. High pressure moves on out, and everybody's going to be getting into a nice swath of light snow across Chicago, across St. Louis, across Indianapolis, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. This is a classic 1 to 3 event on the north side of this. It's all about what happens here. Does everything kind of come together and just turn into a heavy swath of snow? Is there enough to be able to pull it up the East Coast? With this run, no. It's just kind of that swath of an inch or two of snow that pushes east, and then it's a little bit of lake effect on the back side of this into the weekend, and then not much of a break because the next system comes on in, and this is a clipper system. Not a major deal, but this will again provide the opportunity for a ½ inch to a couple inches of fresh snow and then more lake effect. These snow belt areas are going to add it up over the next couple weeks with these frequent systems. So it really depends on what will happen with this next event. Is it going to be something where you see this big swath coming in, maybe threatening Richmond or DC, or is it going to help kind of pull up the coast a little bit? It's about the phasing. So if these two pieces of energy are able to kind of catch up to each other, it'll pull it up the coast as a nor'easter, and this would be the most significant snowstorm for New York City for portions of maybe the southern area of upstate New York into New England, Rhode Island, Connecticut, maybe Boston area. That is not the most likely scenario. That's why we have it as scenario 2. Can it happen? Absolutely. But we need these systems to catch up, and more model runs than not are not showing these two kind of come together quick enough. We'll give you another visualization on that here. This is known as vorticity. It's the energy, it's the spin at about 18,000 feet aloft in the atmosphere. And when we talk about pieces of energy, this is kind of what we're talking about. So this is the one piece of energy. It's moving in over here. You have another piece of energy here, and then there's this piece kind of here. And these have to come together. And notice this is here, this is here. It's kind of phasing down into this area. That would pull it further south and just move it out to sea. And we're seeing this piece of energy not catch up to it until this is way out to sea. So at this point, it's not close enough to have much confidence that it's going to be a major nor'easter or something like that. But it's still on the table. We'll keep a close eye on it for sure. So that's kind of the setup, and then there's that clipper that moves on in on the back side of that going forward. So take a look here again in a little bit on more details into that snowfall accumulation here, and then talk about more of kind of this overall pattern ahead. But hopefully that was a good visualization for you to kind of show what we look for as meteorologists to see how things come together versus just kind of throwing the darts at the board being like, could be a big storm, maybe not. Like, there's reasons as to why things need to come together and happen for other things to kind of play out. All right, here we go. You could see here, big time accumulation maybe for the south, a good few inches to several inches into the snow belts. I can't even rule out another isolated foot in some spots. Same thing with the heart of the Appalachians in West Virginia. But if our scenario 1 plays out, I mean, it's just kind of an inch, 2, 3. I mean, I could totally see 3 inches possible in spots with this. And then where you get, again, kind of that extra lake effect and enhancement, it's several inches of snowfall. So there's an overall look. Where you have the snow belt, you're getting several more inches over the next week. Outside of the snow belt, it's a widespread 1 to 3 inches or so. This is that pattern coming up, and watch the blue colors just continue to showcase Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Northeast, much of the eastern half of the country. Any of the redder colors that come on in are very brief. Big time troughing. You can see that move back in again and again with that big ridging across portions like off the west coast into the west coast and a western portion of the nation, and that's kind of what sustains this pattern. But as you try towards the end of this run to get that ridging closer to the Gulf of Alaska, there could be some symbolism for a little bit of change. What you're looking at here is the MJO, Madden-Julian Oscillation. It's a teleconnection that we look at based out of kind of the Indian Ocean area, thunderstorm activity, levels of convection, levels of just kind of storminess, instability. It's a pretty good harbinger in certain patterns for cold or warmth across the eastern portion of the country. With this pattern here being like a very weak La Nina, almost non-existent, the MJO really kind of takes over and drives a lot of things. So a few weeks out, we were like, okay, we're going to get into the cold phases of the MJO. That's what we sent out in our long-range forecast products. That's what we documented on some social media posts and to our clients that asked. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. And we're currently in those phases and can't really get out too easily. But there's pretty good signature here for that to come on out and go into like the phases of like 2, 3, and 4. So we've been in kind of like 8 and 1. Those are cold phases. 2, 3, and 4 are warm phases. So as you go through the next 30 days or so, you start to get close into that and then really change the pattern. So I think late January, early February, we do have a true pattern change to some warmer weather. Precipitation after this system moves out, so in that 6 to 10 day period, it's going to go back below average. Things do get quieter at that stretch, but we'll have plenty more cold air to talk about because it's still just sustained cold. Except for well into the south. I mean, we're not talking about polar air major dangerous levels of cold. It's just sustained below average cold in the coldest month of the year already. That obviously adds up. It makes a difference. And it keeps us into the deep freeze. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, nice and in depth. We certainly went over a lot of stuff here. And feel free to reach out, ask questions, and stay tuned to all those detailed forecast products guiding you through the next storms. Thank you so much.